Happy New Year, everybody. We are starting chapter 18 this new year, and this will complete the Gita talks after this chapter. So, chapter 18 has been called Moksha Sannyas Yoga, Yoga of Liberation in Renunciation. How to get moksha, yoga with the moksha, to become moksha worthy or get to the moksha through sannyas. As today, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take little time and do few things. We talk about other things too. So when one attains the state of jnana, that is called yoga. What is yoga? Yoga is when one gets jnana. Without jnana, there is no yoga. Meaning that he is now united with jnana. Yoga means to be united. So united with jnana is yoga. That is why in a jnani is called Yoga Yukta. He has got Gyan. He's got Gyan in it. He is Yukta with Gyan. So he is Yoga Yukta. Now in Hindu philosophy, there are 6 Darshan Shastra. Darshan Shastra is a scripture that reveals the Gyan. One of these 6 philosophies is called Sankhya Darshan. Gita chapter 2 has been titled Sankhya Yoga. It is not the same as Sankhya Darshan. Although Gita Gyan was given to Arjun in Kurukshetra, situated in the land of India, it has nothing to do with the Hindu or any other religion. If you have not understood this by now, then I can say that you have not paid attention to the preceding 17 chapters. The correct meaning of Gyan is Ishwar Gyan. It is that Gyan which makes us one with Ishwar. In the eyes of Ishwar, everyone is same. So all these different religions really don't come into Gyan. Gyan Marg is totally separate from every other Marg. Now we will go back to Sankhya. In the Sankhya Yoga of Gita, Bhagavan Krishna has described as to how many entities are in sansar. So how many entities make up this creation in which we are situated? And knowing about each one of those entities, the reality, the truth, is Gyan. Because unless you know that, you cannot practice liberation. In Gita, the Gyan of these is Sankhya, because it's the Sankhya. So the Sankhya word came from Sankhya. How many entities are there in this creation? There Bhagavan has told the secret of karma. So in Sankhya Yoga, Bhagavan Krishna has told what is the secret of karma. In this secret, the most important thing is that whatever karma any human beings perform, there is a prakriya or the method of performance, how the karma is performed, or in the manner in which the karma is performed. For every karma, fruit there must be given. For every karma, fruit must be given. Here it is that how the fruit of each karma is decided and administered. So in this Gyan, what it is in Gita, how the karma is done and how the fruit of that karma is decided and administered. Here it is told that how karma comes about and where it will take us. See, if you perform any action, there is a reason for that action, why you performed it. And when you perform the action, there is a reaction to that action. There is going to be a result to what you did. If you went to college, you studied very hard, the result will be you may get A grade. If you didn't perform, if you didn't study very hard, you may get a C then. Or some people flunk out. So it all depends how the karma is done, and so what will be the result of that karma. How do we perform the karma in samsara? So we know what result will be. So in chapter 14, Bhagavan has said that all karma are trigunatmak, meaning they are all under the three gunas of Maya. Now, if you don't remember, I'll remind you that the way Maya operates in this sansar is three gunas. So these three gunas are the way the Maya works. Maya doesn't do itself anything. Maya only does the work of Paramatma. But Maya has these three gunas which do all the work. And under these three gunas, all the devata fall under one of these three gunas. So, karmas are all trigunatmak. All devata karmas are all trigunatmak. They go to one of these three gunas. When a karma is performed, it immediately goes to one of these three gunas. You cannot stop it. They cannot be stopped. Accordingly, when any karma goes to these gunas and their fruit is decided, in that there are certain causative factors. So, when you performed a karma, depend how we performed the karma, what was our mental state, how we performed physically, whole thing in there, which devata is watching. And depending on how we did it and what we did, with what motive, what intention, that karma immediately goes to one of those devatas under these three gunas. And then it is decided what should be the fruit of that action. Then and there, it's all decided. So as soon as the karma is done, the fruit of the action is decided. When karma becomes prarabdha or physical, mansa vacha karmana. When it becomes karmana, physical, then karma is complete. And when karma is complete, then it goes to one of these three gunas, and these three gunas, it's decided what will be the fruit of that action. It's all programmed. Nobody is doing anything. It's all on autopilot. It keeps going on. And nobody can interfere in this action. Gita is on the Karma Yoga. Gita is on Karma Yoga and has also been called the Karma Yoga Shastra. The entire creation is based on the principle of karma. What does that mean? Just the process of creation itself is karma. Is karma done by Maya under the direction of Paramatma, Ishwar. So everything is karma. The creation process is also a karma. And whatever happens in this creation is also karma. It's no accident. The karma is the prerequisite to obtain anything of the sansar or to attain moksha. Either way, whether you want to stay in sansar, come back and again and again, or you want moksha, you want to pursue moksha, you must do karma. At this point, I like to say a few words about Gita. Gita has been translated in many languages. Many learned people have written their explanation of Gita. They have explained the shlokas of Gita in their own way, However, I wonder how many really understand what has been told by Bhagwan to Arjun. This, the 18th chapter, is epilogue, Upsanghar of Gita. In Gita, Bhagwan has emphasized on the Karma Yoga. Main emphasis on Karma Yoga. It encompasses the tyag of the karma phal. What is Karma Yoga? The tyag of karma phal. In chapter 2, slok 47, Bhagwan said that your right is only in doing the karma. So you must do karma. Okay? We have the right to perform karma. So we have to do karma. We cannot say we are not going to do karma. I don't want the fruit of the action, so I'm not going to do any karma. That's not possible. Although fruit will come, but never you have the right to its fruit. So what this means? Bhagwan says you have the right to perform karma, and you must perform karma. But, and the result of the karma is that you're going to get the fruit. It's going to come. And although the fruit is going to come to you, but you never have the right to its fruit. You don't have right to its fruit. The next Bhagwan says that do your karma situated in Samatva Yoga in slok 48. So both of these things are one and the same. Samatva Yoga means you stay sum in every aspect of your life. Every day. What you accept what comes your way. That is Samatva Yoga. Put very plainly. Because you cannot change what is coming your way. Like we just learned that when karma is done, it goes directly to one of these three gunas and the fruit is decided. You cannot change the fruit of that karma. So you cannot change anything. Only one who can change is Paramatma. And there is ways of doing that. So Bhagavan says stay in Samatva Yoga. Whether it's pleasure or pain, accept both as the same. It's not that you have a hard time, then you run around and cry and nobody can help you. The hard time will go away when the hard time has come to go away. And then always after the cloud there is a sunshiny day. So this is how the word is. Shitoshna sukh dukkhada, Bhagavan Krishna says. Matra sparshast kaunteya, shitoshna sukh dukkhada. Matra sparsh means, matra is tanmatra, or these bhoot, 5 bhoot. Bhoom, aap, anal, vayu, kham. All these 5 bhoot. Sparsh, matra sparsh. When you come in contact with these 5 bhoots, how do we come in contact with 5 bhoots? We have a body which is made up of 5 bhoots. So we are always in contact. As long as we are embodied, we are in contact with these 5 bhoots. So what happens? Matra sparshasti kaunteya ekunti putra. Matra sparsh, by association with these tanmatra or 5 bhoot. Shitoshna sukha dukkhada. What it gives is Shit, Ushna, Sukh and Dukh. Pair of opposite. You'll always get, there's nothing like you always have Sukh or you always have Dukh. You'll always have a combination of the two. So once we come in the body, we should expect that this is how it is. And this is Gyan. Then having listened to Gita so far, Arjun asked Bhagavan that he wants to know the essence of Tyag and Sannyas. There's 2 things, Tyag and Sannyas. What is the reality? What really is Tyag and what really is Sannyas? Now, how do we understand this? What is this? Karm phal, of which we have no right. Bhagavan Krishna said, yes, you will have, fruit will come your way, but you do not have right for it, right to it. All living beings have a body. But here we are talking about only the human body, because karma can only be done in human body. So the body is a karma phal. The body itself that we are in is also a karma phal. And everybody's body is different, because everybody's fruit of action is separate, different. There are no two fruits which are alike. So we are given this body by Devta, so we can experience the various fruit of our karmas. So without going into great detail, the tyag simply means to give the entire life to Paramatma. See, Bhagavan says, tyag of karma phal. What is the biggest karma phal? Is the human body we got. That is the main phal. So, what is the biggest tyag then? What is the tyag mean? Tyag means give your whole life to Paramatma. Because nobody else can accept. They don't have the power to accept the whole life. So you have to give whole life to Paramatma. That is the tyag. In today's world, we will say tyag means we give up our possessions. No, whole life. You work for Paramatma, whatever you get is coming from Paramatma, and you give it back. So when you give a whole life, automatically whatever comes as a fruit of your action in your life goes to Paramatma. There is no other way, because you have given your whole life to Paramatma. That is the real tyag. For this to happen, our karma must be such that we have earned the ability to do this kind of tyag. We cannot do it. We are not capable of doing it. But we have to do karma, so we become able to do this. Not everybody can give their whole life to Paramatma. We humans want to accumulate. What are you talking about tyag? We all want to accumulate. Everybody wants more and more and more. Everybody will look for, well, other person has this thing, I must have it too. There is no question of tyag. This is not the sign of tyag. This shows our insecurity. When you want something, that means you are totally insecure. Now, Gita was told in Dwapar Yuga. And that's what makes me wonder whether people really understand what Bhagavan Krishna say in Gita. It was told in Dwapar Yuga to Arjun. And Arjun was a jnani person. He was not ordinary person. He was a king in his own right. And he knew everything except Ishwar Gyan. How many of us really have that kind of Gyan like Arjun? Zero. We are in Kali Yuga. Our abilities are nowhere like those in the Dwapar Yuga. The people in Dwapar Yuga were much more capable than we are. So how we can do whatever Bhagavan Krishna says in Dwapar Yuga, he said in Dwapar Yuga, how can we do in this Yuga, in Kali Yuga? In chapter 4, Shlok 8, Bhagavan said that I come into being in every yuga, sambhavami yuge yuge. Bhagavan comes into being himself by his own powers. Nobody brings him here. He comes by his own powers. When he takes avatar as Ubhayadarshi. What is Ubhayadarshi? Ubhayadarshi means the avatar which sees our karma and also can give us moksha, mukti. That is Ubhayadarshi. He sees both. And Bhagavan Krishna was Ubhaydarshi avatar. That avatar gives Gyan and tells how to practice it. Okay? Now, let's pause for a minute. We go to college, right? We go take courses, we get education. We have textbooks. We read the books. But we still need a teacher to go and learn something. Whatever we read in the books or in the text, how do we apply it? That is the key. You can have all the knowledge in the world, literal knowledge and written knowledge, everything. But unless we know how to utilize it, that knowledge is of no use. It's completely useless. Yeah, so I know how to go to moon and everything, but if you cannot do it, there's no use. So, Bhagavan, the avatar gives Gyan and tells how to practice it. Because we don't know how to practice. Even after getting the Gyan, you have to practice. So, in this Yug, Bhagavan Sri Chakradhar is such an avatar. In Dwapar Yug, it was Bhagavan Sri Krishna. In Kali Yug, it is Bhagavan Sri Chakradhar. He gave same Gyan, because Gyan never changes. Gyan is same no matter what Yug it is. And told how to practice that Gyan in today's time, in Kali Yuga. So whatever was told in Dwapar Yuga, same thing he told in this Yuga and told how to practice in the conditions of Kali Yuga. This is what is called Astipari. When one follows it for their entire life and it is accepted by Parmeshwar, another Ishwar avatar appears to take this person at the age of 12 in the next life and carries him through Prapti. So, we have to practice the Gyan, whatever is told in the Gyan, for entire life. Now think about it. That is Tyag. You have given whole life to the practice of the Gyan which was given by Paramatma. So now by doing that, you have given your entire life to Paramatma because you are following his orders. And this is what is called bhakti. To do whatever Paramatma told us, if we do that, that is called bhakti. Bhakti is nothing unusual, it's just simple. So the Gyan in Gita must be followed according to the current Astipari, current procedure. How can we do it in what they did in Dwapar? No, we cannot. We are not in Dwapar Yuga. We are not Arjun. We are just ordinary human beings of Kali Yuga, where there is a lot more Rajogun and Tamogun. But here, knowing this, Bhagavan Sri Chakradhar appeared and gave the Gyan and told his Astipari. So Gyan stays the same no matter when it is given, but the Astipari or how to follow it is different from time to time. And that different Astipari is told by different avatar in that yuga. Now before going into the first slok, we should find out what is karma. Whatever is done is karma. Simply put, Bhagavan Sri Chakradhar has said, Yat kriyate tat karma. Meaning karma is so named because of the definition. What is done, kriyate, what is done is karma. He further said, karma shabde karma bolije, meaning that karma is expressed by the word karma itself. Karma being trigunatmak, its fruit or the consequence must be faced by its doer. Thus karma causes the bondage. This is what the bondage is. You must face the consequence of your action. That is what bondage is. Bandhan. That's why Arjun says karma results in bandhan, bondage. How to get out of it? Now, every karma has 3 stages. First is arising of the thought in our mind. Thought, there has to be thought come into our mind before karma can be done. This is called mental stage or manasa. Then one engages in researching to find out how should he do it. In these days, we want to build something. What we do? We go to Google or go to YouTube and find out how it is done. Right? So first, the thought came in the mind, I want to do this, I want to build something like this. Then you go and you look in the information. Today is online, but same thing as Vacha. Somebody put that in there and you read it. So in this stage, one may converse with others. So this is called Vacha. Thus, this stage called Vachik, verbal or non-cupative. Then, in its third and final stage, the plan is put into action. So first the thought came in, then came planning. That's what they call it. It's called what they call this pre-planned, premeditated. They call these, right? That's the word, premeditated action. So thought came in and you planned it, and then you put it into action. Just like insurrection in the Capitol building here just happened last week. There was discussion, there was thought came in people's mind that the election was rigged, and the candidate thought he is the one who should be winning, he should be the winner. And then he put together a plan and everybody followed it. They listened to it, mansa, vacha, and they went ahead and executed it. In doing so, some people died, property damage, people got scared. What kind of karma is this? It's complete. Karma is complete. There will be fruit of that action to those who were involved in it. They cannot get away from it because there's the law of creation. And this is high degree of tamoguni karma. So what kind of fruit they will get? Some will go to jail. Who knows what's going to happen? So when this is done physically, becomes karmana. It's complete. Karma is done. And it is sent to one of these 3 gunas. There are 1,000 people, 10,000 people, everybody involved in the karma. Everybody's karma is sent to one of these gunas. Some people saved other people, their karma is different. So there goes to different gunas. And immediately the fruit of that action is decided, automatic. If the karma stops in the first or the second stage, manasa or vachik, the consequence is less severe. Most of those karma are executed in our dreams. So sometimes you have a dream that somebody coming after you, chasing you, and you cannot run fast enough, and you are scared. That is the phal of your mansik or vachik karma. So, but when it is karmana or physical, then you have to experience physically. There is no other way. When the karma crosses the third stage, its fruit is administered physically. Now, if the mind is in the sattvic state, see what we just said, To start a karma, there has to be thought, arising of the thought. Where does thought come in? In our mind. So if the mind is in the sattvic state, satoguni mind, the thought will be of the satoguni nature. That kind of thought will come. If the mind is tamoguni, then cannot get satogun thought. It will definitely getting tamoguni thought. Because you cannot change what Gun says. Gun has got, that is the law. That is how Maya operates this Srishti. It follows that its fruit will also be primarily Satoguni. If the mind is Satoguni, thought will be Satoguni, then fruit will be Satoguni too. Same is true for other two gunas. To achieve the state of moksha, one need to either not engage in karma or do the tyag of its fruit. Bhagavan Sri Krishna has advised to do the latter, since the first is humanly not possible. Karmanyevadhikaraste. You must do karma. You see, you're right. You have to exercise the right. You've been sent here in Srishti to do karma. So there is no way you can say, I'm not going to do karma. So the latter, which means after you do perform the karma, but you do the tyag of karma phal. That is what Bhagavan Krishna has said. So Arjun expresses to Bhagavan his desire to know the truth about sannyas and tyag. So Arjun Uvach.
Arjuna Uvacha Sannyasasya Mahabaho Tattvamicchami Veditum Tyagasya cha Hrishikesha Prathakeshi Nishudana.
Arjun says, Mahabaho, O mighty arm. Rishikesh. See, he is giving these adjectives to Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Mahabaho, you are the most powerful. Rishikesh, you are master of senses. And Keshini Sudana, O the slayer of demon Keshi. So he says, Bhagavan Krishna, you are the most powerful. You have the power. And you know how to use that power because you are Rishikesh. You are master of your senses. So the power will be used properly. And how did you use? Keshini Sudana. You slain demon Keshi. Ichhami Veditum. I desire to know Tattvam, the Tattva or the truth, the essence of sannyasa sannyas cha and tyagasya and the tyag. And how do I want to know? Which way I want to know? Prathak. Severally. I want to know separately. Don't tell me one explanation for both. I want to know separately. So Arjun wants to know from Srimukh, means the mouth of Paramatma, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, the truth that separates the sannyas and tyag. What separates the two? So he wants to know both of them separately and how they are different. So I want to know their meaning separately. Bhagavan tells this in the next shloka.
श्रीभगवानुवाच काम्यानां कर्मणां न्यासम् सन्न्यासं कवयो विदुः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागं प्राहुस्त्यागं विचक्षणाः.
Kamyanam karmanas nyasam. Bhagavan says, Kavya. There are few words used here. Kavya, which come from Kavi, plural of Kavi is Kavya. And Vichakshana. So those are two, and third one will be Jnani. So Kavya, the sages, the learned ones. Kavya are those who are learned people. They have Jnana, they are learned. Vidu, they understand sannyasasya. Sannyas to be kamyanam karmanam nyasam. How they understand? They understand sannyas to be kamyanam karmana nasam. The renunciation of kamya karma. So you say, what is this kamya karma? In Gita there is two types of karma. One is karya karma and other one is kamya karma. Kama means a karma which is performed to fulfill certain kamana or desire. That is kamya karma. So all the worldly karma which happen, they all have some kamana or desire behind it. The word sanya and the karya karma is the karma which we are here to do, which is our real karma, what we have been sent in the sansar. See, in the very beginning when the creation started, Bhagavan's desire was to get all the jeev to be with him, like him. So to do this, he ordered Maya. Maya created samsara and everything, and Maya is the one who created all these karmas, different kind of karma, karma phala, and everything. And Bhagavan gave the jnana to each jeev, and those who followed, they went to higher level. Some followed, some didn't follow. So that's how the whole thing started. So what is our karya karma? Whatever Bhagavan has said, the jnana and following the jnana is our karya karma. Very simply put. Everything else is kamya karma, because there is a desire associated. You want to get this, you want to do this. So that is all kamya karma. The word sannyas has two parts. Sam, meaning completely in its totality, samyak, in completely, and nyas. And nyas has also again two components. Ni, meaning with reverence and willingly, and as, meaning let go of it. So sannyas means completely let go of something with no reservation, willingly, with reverence. That is what sannyas is. So sannyas is totally letting go of something willingly and politely with reverence. It's not like, oh, here, take it, throw it away. No, reverently, politely. This is possible only when we are free of 6 evils. What are these? Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, and Matsar. Unless we are free of these, there is no sannyas. Cannot exercise sannyas. Because there is kamna. You want something. So how can you let go of it? Krodh. If you have to let go of something, you become angry. Lobh, greed is there. I want more. What are you talking about? Give it away. So as long as these moh mean delusion, believing things which are not true. Mad, intoxicated state of mind. Matsar, irsha, jealousy. So unless these 6 are not out of our mental makeup, we cannot exercise sannyas. Just putting on Bhagwa clothes, and taking a mala and running around all over the place and doing a give me bhiksha and all that. That's not sannyas. Sannyas is a mental state. It's mental exercise. Physical is totally different. So, in the understanding of sages, Kavya, and the learned ones, sannyas is totally let go of the kamya karma. That's what sages or Kavya have said. And their understanding is, Bhagavan didn't say they said it, is their understanding, how they Kavya or the wise ones understand what sannyas is. Their understanding is totally let go of kamya karma. He didn't say all karma, he said kamya karma. Kamya karma is karma which is done to fulfill a desire or kamana. Yajna, dan, tap, which are done for getting, like to get a wife, son, wealth, freedom from disease and other problem, is called kamya karma. Sansar, what we do? We want something. What do we want? Dara sut dhan. In bhajan they say, Dara sut dhan moh liye ho. Sud buddh sab bisri. When these 3 things come into our mind and they occupy our mind, there is no wisdom in that mind. It's totally taken over by these 3. And that's what sansar is. So what Bhagavan is saying, that sannyas does not mean having no desire. Sannyas doesn't mean having no desire. Desire is going to be there in your mind. Instead, not to engage in a karma to fulfill the desire. Desire will come. It is there. Because we are human beings, there is going to be desire. But instead, not to engage in a karma to fulfill that desire. Let it die down. When desire comes in your mind, let it die down. Don't try to fulfill it. It's like, in Gita Bhagavan said, it's like pouring oil, ahuti, on fire. Okay? What is desire? Let's think about that. How does desire come into being? It's explained in Shastra that when start of desire starts from your navel. Okay. And this air heats up. It's a fire. Desire is nothing but a fire. And if you put more fuel on that fire, the fire gets bigger and bigger. So when the desire comes, let it die down. If you don't put any fuel on the fire, in time the fire will subside, it will die down. Right? When all the fuel is gone, the fire is finished. But if you keep adding more and more fuel to that fire, the fire will keep on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually it will consume you. So, the way to do is, desire will come. Those jnani, those manishi, those vichakshana people, they can see a rising of thought in their mind. When they can see the thought is coming into the mind, they become very vigilant. What is this thought? Where is it going to lead me? And they just don't pay any attention to that thought. Let it die down. It'll come, it'll die down. But if you keep pondering on that thing, keep pestering on that thought, well, if this happened, then what will do, or this will do, and whatever, that is feeding more and more. So that's how at night time when you want to go to sleep, and you get a thought coming in your mind, you can't sleep. Because one thought leads to another one, to another one, to another one, to another one. And you stay awake all night thinking about it. What is this? The same thing. It's the fire. You're feeding more and more to that fire, and fire becomes bigger and bigger, and you lost all your sleep. And next day you're tired, and you are upset. Anybody wants to talk to you, you don't talk to them properly. You lost all your composure. Why? By feeding the desire, putting more fuel in that fire. So this applies to all worldly desires. Well, say I have so many dollars or so many rupees, whatever. I want to get more. I want to multiply it now. Right? So you go talk to people how to do this. First of all, nobody is going to tell you how to do it the way they did it. They'll give you in general terms, this is what you should do. Now you try to do this and that. By all the time you spend, most of the time people end up losing money. So where do you stand now? You fuel desire to multiply the money. Eventually, you have same amount of money that you had before. You make money, then say, I'll make some more and more, and all of a sudden, boom, crashed. And you have what you had to start. So by saying no to the desire of the mind and senses, where does desire come from? From mind. But where does it come into the mind? By experience of the senses. That is why when Arjuna says Rishikesh, Bhagavan Krishna, Rishikesh, he controls his senses. When he controls senses, there is no desire in him. He does what he is supposed to do. He does his job. No desire. He has no favorites. He does what you call nyaya or justice. No left or right or whatever. You get what you did. So by saying no to the desire of the mind and senses, so first step is to control senses. And mind will automatically be controlled. One can slowly become their master. Master of what? Master of senses. Such a person is also called Goswami. Go means senses, and who is the master of senses is Goswami. These days, one who leave their home and put on orange garb, people call him sannyasi. It is not so. Sannyasi is one who has completely diverted his mind from the worldly actions and put it to the Parmeshwar Bhakti. You see, you cannot just say, I diverted my mind from sansar. Our mind is never gonna stay still. Mind is active, is alive. It's gonna keep doing something. So you got to give something to the mind to do. So you put your mind towards each Parmeshwar Bhakti, mind is engaged in there. But if you don't, there is no way. Mind will take over. Mind will have its own power. Mind has the power of Brahma, big Devta. So mind cannot be quelled. It can be diverted, but it cannot be quelled. It will always have some thought coming in. So you direct your mind to bring the thought of Parmeshwar Bhakti. Then mind becomes engaged into it. It takes practice. That's why Arjun said, Chanchalahi mana Krishna. He tells Bhagavan Krishna, man is very fickle, chanchal. It wants to do certain different things. How can I put it towards your bhakti? Bhagavan says, Abhyas. You have to practice. You try to put your mind towards my bhakti, Bhagavan says, it goes back, you bring back again. It goes back, bring back again. Over and over. Eventually, mind will get the message and will be stand still and do bhakti. It doesn't happen overnight. We are not here in the situation we are by just one action. It took many, many years, many, many lives. That's what we are, accumulation of all the karma for many, many lives. That's what our mind is. Mind never forgets all your karma. So in chapter 6, Bhagavan has said that anashrita karma phalam karya karma karotiya sasanyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir chakriya. Yogi and sannyasi are one and the same according to this shlok. Why? Anashrita karma phalam. First thing is, neither one of those take the refuge into the karma phal. Now go back again to second chapter. Bhagavan said, you have the right to karma, but not to the fruit which comes that way. So knowing that these yogis and sannyasi, they know that, so they do not take the refuge in the karma phal. They don't take ashray, they don't want support of the karma phal. But what they do? Karya karma karotiya. They do karya karma, not kamya karma. People who want to take refuge in karma phal are the ones who are engaged into kamya karma. Understand now? If you are engaged in kamya karma, you will take refuge into the karma phal. You want to use that phal to fulfill your kamya karma desire. But those who are engaged in doing only karya karma, anashrita karma phalam. They don't want the karma phal, the support of karma phal. Because they are doing karya karma. Karma does not get help, cannot be done with karma phal. Because karya karma is done by Paramatma Shakti. So he says, Sasanyasi cha yogi cha. He is sannyasi and yogi. Naniragna chakriya. And those in kamya karma, in old days, they used to do Agni puja and all kind of worship. They use different Agni kriyas, Havan, Ahuti, all this kind of stuff. So he doesn't do that. There are two types of karma. One is called karya karma and the other kamya karma. Bhagavan said that the one who does his duty, what is karya karma? Our duty. What is the duty of a human being? That is the karya karma of the human being. Without depending on the fruit of the action is sannyasi, sankhya yogi, and also karma yogi. Both sankhya yogi as well as karma yogi. So neither depend on the fruit of their action, and here he says that sages, Pandit, understand this sannyas to be one who relinquished all kamya karma. The sages, the kavya, understand the sannyasi to be the one who has relinquished all the kamya karma. He doesn't put any of his energy into kamya karma. The person who, leaving all kamya karma, remains engaged in Parameshwar Bhakti does not worry about his sustenance, how he's going to live. He doesn't worry. Since in Shlok 22, chapter 9, Bhagavan Sri Krishna said that he himself takes care of it. Those who do karya karma or Parameshwar Bhakti, Bhagavan says, I take care of their, what is that word? Yog Kshem. Whatever they need, I take care of it. And that is a fact. Whether you believe or not, but that is the truth. Such people are rare. So here Bhagavan is telling Arjuna that one who continues to perform the necessary action, the Nishkam karma, which includes, what are these karma? Which you cannot leave? Yagna, tap and dan. And leaves the kamya karma is a sannyasi. Now you say yagna, tap and dan. Well, should I do home? No, yagna doesn't mean that. In Gita, yagna doesn't mean ahuti, havan or home. Tap and dan. Now we take the second part of the shlok. Bhagavan says that otherwise, the other ones, which are vichakshana, first was the gyan, the people, first people were the knowledgeable ones. Now comes vichakshana. Vichakshana are the ones, they are what you call chatur or skillful. They declare tyag as relinquishing or abandoning the fruit of all karma. Vichakshana. Vichakshana are those who have gone to great depth of jnana. They have mastered the art of karma. They are skillful in performing the karma. You see, first we have the knowledge of doing the karma. What were those people? Those people who knew everything. Now here second group of people, vichakshana. They not only know, but they are chatur, skillful in doing the karma. Whereas the kavya, the ones who knew, who are knowledgeable people, they were the first one, kavya, kavi. The vichakshana are much higher level than kavya. Not only they have the knowledge, but they are skillful in using that knowledge. Now we need to understand the meaning of Sarva Karma Phala Tyagam. And is it possible? What is Sarva Karma Phala Tyagam, and is it actually possible? Prior to the introduction of money, people live in small communities, not only in India but all over the world, and dependent on each other. The communities had farmers, right? Blacksmith, carpenters, weavers, sanitation workers, priests, physicians, etc. So in the Western world, Western countries, you have the last names: carpenter, weaver, blacksmith, goldsmith. Those are the names of the people, last names, because that was their profession. And they lived in small communities, and they all catered to each other's needs. Somebody is having a wedding, they go to the goldsmith and they get ornaments made. Somebody needs something repaired of metal, they go to blacksmith. They fabricate things. So everybody was taking care of each other. All of them served the community using their skills. Vichakshana is the one who has skills of the Gyan. These people had skills of doing things for satisfying the needs or desires of people. At the harvest time, the farmer distributed the food grain to everybody. The priest performed the religious work, etc., etc. So all problems started with the introduction of money. Now everything is valued in terms of money, not anything else. The king appointed his people to assess the value of land and other possessions in terms of currency. So if you look in the history, different kings used to start their own currency, their own coins, right? And that's the currency which is applicable into that kingdom. And you have to be evaluated according to that currency. Then he had these people who assessed the value of your possessions. He had them collect taxes on what you possessed. These tax collectors were in India, Desais, Patels, etc. The king used to give them some land as compensation. If someone failed to pay taxes, the police force used to go and take everything which they owned. They didn't care what you had left. How many people in your family? Nothing. The income inequality, which we hear so much today, got its start in the introduction of currency, money. When everything is evaluated in terms of money, then there's gonna be inequality of income inequality. The rich became richer and the poor get poorer and poorer. Gita says that you did karma and received the fruit. Today it comes as money. You work 40 hours, you get so much money. What is your qualification? Your rate is $15 an hour, that's what you get. Who decides? There are people who decide that. So, prahustagyam vichakshana. Distribute what you received. It is exceedingly difficult that you worked hard and now you should give it to others. Gita says, give it to others. Vichakshana, people who are skillful, that's what they said. In Kali Yuga, there is neither tyag nor sannyas. In this yuga, there is preponderance of rajogun and tamogun, and tyag and sannyas doesn't come in either one of those gunas. Unless you have satogun, there will be no tyag and no sannyas. Please note that Bhagavan is telling Arjun what other wise and skillful Kavya and Vichakshana have said and understood. He continues the same in the next shloka.
त्याज्यं दोषवदित्येके कर्म प्राहुर्मनीषिणः यज्ञदानतपः कर्म न त्याज्यमिति चापरे.
He says Manishana, eke Manishana, some Manishin, Prahur, they say that karm doshvat. They say that inherently all karm is faulty. All the karm have blemishes on them. Doshvat. They are with dosh, faults. Therefore, they are tyajatyam, worthy of relinquishing. Tyajyam, worthy of relinquishing. They are worthy of let go. Cha apare, while others, ahu, they say that yagya dan tapah karma, the work of yagna, dan and tap, natyajyam, are not worthy of relinquishing. They are to be performed. Bhagavan Sri Chakradhara has defined sannyas as following. He said, Rag, Dvesh, Kam, Krodh, Mad, Matsar, Yacha, Tyag, Nave, Sannyas. So, it is that state of the mind that where these 6 evil become inactive. They don't go away. They are there. Mind has all of them. But they become inactive. They do not prop up their ugly head in your mind. Now you may ask that you said tyag means relinquishing ownership to someone else. So if you do tyag of kam, krodh, lo, moh, mad, matsar, who will be the recipient of these 6 evils? I'm going to give up. The answer is that these exist in the Prakriti. And when we do their tyag, by not letting them be active in us, they will go to the Prakriti, which is everywhere. Okay? So, we can see both tyag and sannyas do not happen in the real sense. In Gita, Bhagavan has given the key for accomplishing these. This starts from Shlok 55 of this chapter. This is the essence of this chapter. In this Shlok, which we just read, Bhagavan tells that wise ones, Manishana, say that all karma are stained with evil. So leave all karma, give it away. Don't do it. That's what Manishana said. The other today say that earn the fruit of the action or karma and then give it away as dan. So it is like you put your hand in the mud and wash it off. You did the karma, according to Manishana what you did, you got stained because nothing but dirt. You put your hand in there, you did karma. How you do your karma? By your hand, physically, right? So you physically did it and you became dirty. Now you say, I'm going to give it away and I want to wash myself. So I want to get clean again. So the other people say, if you're going to do that, why in the first place you do the karma? Why get dirty? So you don't have to wash. Right? That is what is the view of Manishana. Then others say that yajna dan tapa karma na tyajyam iti chapare. Yajna, dan and tap, these karma cannot be relinquished. It is these karma which help us to rise above all other karmas. So one can let go of all other karmas. However, yajna, dan and tap should not be given up or relinquished. You must do these three. Now everyone says that one should do dharma. You hear people, oh, he's so dharmic, he does so much dharma, right? Dharma karma. So what is dharma? Is going to temple, ringing the bell, and place your head at the feet of the murti dharma? How can we define dharma? Whatever holds or retains you, whatever holds and retains you, they are all dharma. For example, eating is also a dharma. Food gives us energy. It is the dharma of this body. Body must eat to sustain itself. So the food sustains us. If we have a family, protecting and providing for the family is dharma. See, everything is dharma. In a family, wife's dharma is called pativrata dharma. Hindu wedding they used to take very long time. Because the priest used to explain this pativrata dharma in detail. This big thing. It is not done these days. The dharma does not exist. So for all of us, there are three pillars of dharma. They are, now by the way, why priest used to explain to the bride all this? Because it's the woman, the wife is what the pillar of the family is. If women stay good, the family is good. So there are three pillars of dharma. They are yajna, dan and tap. In chapter 17, Shlok 7, Bhagavan said, in Shlok 7, 22 to 22, 7 to 22, Bhagavan has described yajna, dan and tap in last chapter. Where these three are present, that is called dharma. So what is dharma? Whenever yajna, dan and tap are there present, that is dharma. On this topic there is a story. Once Asur, Devta and Manushya went to Prajapati Brahma for a study. See, they don't used to be universities and all that. They used to go to teacher. So Prajapati Brahma, these three people went. One was Devta, one was Asur, and one was Manush. At the end of 12 years of education, there was what we now call a graduation ceremony. In the ceremony, Brahma instructed all three with one word, one letter. The letter was Da. Going into the word, all three were instructed to follow the meaning of Da. The Prajapati Brahma then asked each one, what did they understand of this word Da? So now this reflects the education. So the Devta said it means the Madhvam. Since they possess power, Devta are very powerful and they are very capable. They possess power and capability. They need to exercise control over their powers and practice control over their senses so they don't go astray. The Asur said that they understood it to be Dayadhvam. Since Asur have the Asuri Prakriti, not Devi Prakriti, Asuri Prakriti, they should practice mercy, Daya, Dayadhvam. Then came the turn of humans. They said that they understood the meaning of Da as Datavyam. They should practice Dan. Now, Dan is such an important thing. That is the essence of humanity. Okay? Tyag. In Tyag there is Dan. Right? Karm Phal Tyag, there is Dan. Sannyas, there is Dan. Dan is everywhere. For every human being, Dan is the key. People give Dan when they get hard times, they go to do puja and do Dan. But that's not the real Dan, that is kamya karma. Therefore, it is important for humans to practice Dan. So the dharma for humans includes yagna, dan and tap. So these three cannot be relinquished. You cannot just not do it. You have to do it. Yagna today people take it as havan. However, it is not so. Yagna means remembering Ishwar. Dev Puja. The method by which it is accomplished is called jap. It has a great deal of power. In Gita, emphasis has been given to anasakt bhav. It is not possible for human beings to do. While we are doing dan, tap and jap, when we are doing dan, tap and jap, they are already in there, in dan. It is Ishwar who makes the action anasakt. We do perform according to yagya, dan and tap. Then Ishwar makes it anasakt. At the moment, he removes any motive that we may be having. We cannot remove the motive. There is going to be motive no matter what you do. But when you're doing in the name of Ishwar with his jap and tap, then that time, that dan that which you give, you practice that dan with jap and tap, then Ishwar takes away the motive or asakti in that dan. Then becomes anasakt karya. We cannot do ourselves. That's why we have to pray to Paramatma to help us doing that. We can obtain everything by jap and tap. Anything you want in the sansar, you can get it. Now, yagna also helps achieve much. It becomes synergistic with any action or kriya and generates unseen power from within. When you're doing this yagna means Dev Puja, Sangati Karan, Daneshu. This generates unseen power from within. This is the Sarvatmak Dharma of Ishwar, because Ishwar is everywhere and you are doing it according to his law, according to his desire, then Ishwar takes care of it. An unseen power generates within you to take care of things. Tap has been described in chapter 17, slok 14 to 16, and Bhagavan has described Dan in slok 20 to 22. Out of the three, Bhagavan takes up Tyag in the next slok.
Nishchayam shunu me tatra tyage bharata sattama tyago hi purusha vyaghra trividha samprakirtitah.
Here, out of three, Bhagwan has emphasized Tyag. This is an indication that he has nothing to say regarding sannyas. He doesn't talk about sannyas. He starts talking about Tyag. Arjun wanted to know what is Tyag and what is sannyas. Bhagwan is telling Tyag. Bhagwan says that one can practice Tyag while living in sansar. You need not leave sansar to do Tyag. Here Tyag is to relinquish the fruit of karma. Tyag also includes the activity of dan and tap. They are included in them. Purusha Vyagra, O tiger among men, Bhagavan says to Arjun. Bharat Sattama, O best of Bharat. Tatra, before the two, that means sannyas and tyag, shrunu, me, listen to me, hear from me, nishchayam, the final truth, which is my decision, tyage, on the subject of tyag. Hi tyaga, because tyag samprakirtita has been declared to be trivid, of three kinds. Tyag is of three kinds. Tyag also falls under three gunas, Sattva, Raj and Tam. Although Bhagavan said that Tyag is of three kinds, he did not say which one is better. He just said there's three kinds of Tyag. However, in the next shlok, he says what is not to be relinquished. Yagya dan tapah karma na tyajya karya mevatat.
Yajna dana tapah karma na tyajyam karyameva tat. Yajno danam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam.
Yagyadan tapah karma na tyajyam karyameva tat. Yagyadan tap cha eva pavanani manishina. Bhagavan says that there are three things which are not worthy of relinquishing. You should not do tyag of these three things. Whether one becomes a sadhu or he is living in sansar or wherever he is living, these three activities can be in sattva, rajogun or tamogun. One can still practice them while living in sansar. These are yajna, dan, tapa, karma. The karma of yajna, dan and tapa, na tyajyam, should not be relinquished. Karyameva tat, these should be performed indeed. Why? Yajna, dan, tapah, eva chaeva, yajna, dan, tapah chaeva, because yajna, dan and tap are purifier to even the wise ones called Manishinam. Those Jnani Manishi. Manishi is the one, Ish means master. Those who are master of their mind, they are Manishi. Okay? They have control over their mind. So they are also Gosai because they have control of the senses. So if they are desirous of the moksha, they must perform these three activities because these acts purify them and take them to the moksha state. Therefore, these are not to be relinquished. I hope we went into a lot of things here, you understood. And so we'll stop here and start next time. Jai Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu.